Christopher Franchi.
Hello, everybody. Well, we're going to start this seminar with a quick history. Most of the histories that I've done about my career have started in pinball, which was in 2016, so it doesn't really tell you much about what I've done in my life. So I hope to give you a little bit of background on that before we get into pinball. And then after that, we'll do a Q&A. And then after that, I have fabulous prizes to give away for 3 of you who were kind enough to sit through all of this rhetoric. Anyway, so we're going to start off our little slideshow. There's me. I used to work for KISS for 5 years. That was one of the first big jobs I had. I did a lot in the licensing industry, mostly t-shirt designs. I worked for Warner Brothers, Paramount Pictures. I did Star Trek, Batman, lots of bands, Rob Zombie, things like that. And then I sort of, KISS stumbled upon me and hired me to revamp their merchandise line. I ended up being a photographer, and I worked for their magazine and did pretty much everything and most of the creative stuff aside from like designing their stage shows and things like that. So there's me with, I can see it right here. Well, there's me with the band, and there's me with a bunch of KISS junk that I designed and with some interesting hair. This is more, like after I started with KISS, I started getting more into concert photography because I got more comfortable with it when I did it for KISS. So there's shots I did for Warrant and some other bands. I worked real close with Juliette Lewis for a while when she was doing a music thing. So there's some shots there that I've done. There was a project I did with Norman Reedus doing a signed lithograph. He likes to take every picture with a middle finger, so I figured I'd join in the fun. And that was the artwork that we did. This is my first step to working for Stern, and this was not for Stern. This is artwork I did for model kit boxes for Mobius. This is what Stern saw on the internet and hired me at 0 hour to do Batman for, and we'll get more into that. But there's the artwork that I did. Those are all the different covers for the boxes. Actually, if you look at that, you'll recognize some of that stuff from the pinball machine, and we'll get into that later too. This is, after that, I did this cover, DVD and Blu-ray cover for Warner Brothers for an animated movie featuring Adam West and Burt Ward's voices, as well as Julie Newmar. And then that began my pinball career in 2016. There's Greg Ferris in the lower right corner saying, "You got 2 weeks. Think you can pull it off?" It started off with them hiring me to do the gadget drawings, which if you played the game, you know that they pop up on the premium edition, whatever the middle edition is. What is that one called? The limited edition. All the plaques were named after a gadget, and I did all of those drawings. And then Greg kept saying, "I wish you could do a back glass. That'd be great." And I said, "Send me the template and I'll have something for you in the morning." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "Send me a template." So I knew all of this artwork that I'd already done for Mobius was approved, and plus the artwork I did for Warner Brothers, obviously approved. So I took that artwork, mashed it together, drew some new things, Batmobile and a different background and whatnot. And he had it in his email the next morning. He says, "Wow, that's great." He showed it to George Gomez and Gary and them, and they all loved it. And they said, "Can you do another one?" All right. Stayed up all night. Next day. So now I'm working on like 3 hours of sleep. Sent them another one, and they loved it. And they said, "Do you think you could do a third?" Okay. So in 3 nights, I did 3 back glasses. And that's why when you look at it, you know, you'll see like, oh, well, that's the same Batman and Robin, you know, in the right one, it's in the middle one. You know, this is all done in 3 days. That's why, you know, the elements that I could draw new, I did, but I just didn't have the time to do it from scratch. But as far as pinball was concerned, this was all new. And they said, "Do you think you could draw a back box?" "Yeah." "Send me the templates." So I did the Batgirl one. So I got Batman and Robin on the front. Let's put Batgirl on the side. "Do you think you could do another one?" This is literally what Greg Ferris did to me. It was one piece at a time. He got me to complete them a day at a time, one day after another, even on the weekends, until I had all of the back boxes, the translights, and the Catwoman artwork done in 2 weeks. Actually, the LE took a little bit longer because the Batmobile on the side, that was all new artwork, and there's like a little cave in the city in the background. It took a lot of time to draw that, but we got it done, and it was ready for Expo, and then I continued working on the gadgets until November. So that was a whole lot of fun, but that was my introduction to pinball. After that, Guardians of the Galaxy, the artwork that you see on the right side there, that was my tryout for Marvel. Because you don't just get the job, Marvel wants to know if you're capable of doing it because they don't want to waste your time, and they certainly don't want their time wasted. So I did an illustration of Groot and Rocket, and they said yes, and we went ahead and did that. So there's that. We've gone over this, you know, and you've seen this stuff, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this stuff, but I do have a little surprise to show you. This was something that I really, really, really pushed for. In the movie, you know, it's a very heavy 70s soundtrack, even to the point where on the spaceship, you will see, you know, his little sort of retro tape deck that he's got. And around that tape deck, there were old trading cards, sports cards. And in the end of the movie, in the credits, they had the characters on different, like, sports cards that they had created. So I went and found 5 different old baseball cards and redid them for all the characters, and I wanted that to be the side cabinet on the LE. And I went from the LE to the Premium to the Pro. No. So I redesigned it as a side on the back box. No, they weren't feeling the sports card thing. So it didn't happen, but there's a sneak preview of, well, not preview, but a sneak peek at something that didn't happen that I really did want to happen. It was kind of neat. Then we went to the Beatles. I'll give you a story behind the Beatles. There was a lot of controversy about this game, not only the price, which I did not set, and it wasn't because my art was expensive, it was the same price. I swear it wasn't my fault. It was actually the license that cost $1 million. Joe Camico came to me and he said, we're going to do the Beatles. And I said, okay, cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And he says, we got 2 choices. We can do Yellow Submarine, or we could do 1964 Beatles. And I took a look at the artwork for Yellow Submarine. Now, my first reaction was, forget Yellow Submarine. Whenever I see Beatles merchandise, it's always Yellow Submarine. Puzzles, lunchboxes, little Hot Wheels thing. You know, how about something new? And then I saw this. And I would never buy a pinball machine with the Beatles looking like that. That's your Yellow Submarine Beatles right there. Paul's got an orange beard. You know, yeah, no. So I said, is there potential to do another Beatles game? And he said, there's always potential. He says, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes. It could happen. And I said, well, if there's going to be a series of games, or even if there's just going to be 2, I think it would be nice to start off where the Beatles started off. And since their original plan was to do a remake of Sea Witch, and it is a remake, it's not a reskin. It's all been re-engineered from the ground up. George will tell you that. Let's go with retro art, you know. Let's just do the whole, you know, it's called Beatlemania Pinball. So I drew all of these little, you know, vintage, you know, pieces of memorabilia, and we stacked it all in the game. And it's you know, the idea that I told George was like, I wanted to feel like you just opened up a fan magazine in 1964, and like the Beatles just blew out of the magazine and into your bedroom. And I think we successfully pulled that off. That's exactly what we wanted to do. A lot of people were like, well, you know, we want the hippie, you know, the later Beatles. Wasn't an option. The only option was 64 Beatles or Yellow Submarine. And between those 2, I hope you agree on my choice. Did not want to do Yellow Submarine. So, yeah, I definitely think that the, you know, the Fab Four, the mop-top Beatles were the way to go, and with the retro design of the pinball machine, I thought it was perfect, and I only just prayed that everyone else did. So, that's where we went with the Beatles. This is something you probably haven't seen. This is the side of the Platinum Edition. Ooh, Platinum. You got $25,000, you can have this artwork in your house. So that's what that looked like, because most people have not seen that. And then we have the Munsters. That was my next job. I actually did the Munsters the same time I was doing the Beatles. This was a very interesting job. They sent me the assets from Universal for the Munsters, and it consisted of 3 photos that sucked, some wallpaper designs that you could put on your computer that some high school student won a contest designing, or so it appeared. There was nothing. I had the logo. That's what I had to work with, was the logo. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do some research. I spent a lot of time watching the 2 series, the 2 seasons, taking pictures with my cell phone at the screen, you know, for reference. I got all these great pictures of Herman Munster with my arms, you know, like a silhouette reflection of my arms and my camera over his face. But, you know, I just had to get what I could. Shots off of Google. So everything in here was created from the ground up, pretty much. Even had to draw. I hate drawing cars. And that was the worst car to draw ever. Like there were no good pictures of that car. And I'm not like a motorhead. I can change my oil. I can add oil. I can't even change my oil. I can add oil. I can look in and go, that looks dirty. But that's about it. I can't fix cars. So I'm drawing this engine and there were no clear pictures of it. And I'm just like trying to figure this stuff out. It was a pain in the butt. Anyway, all the illustrations on this were ground up. Some of them don't even exist in photographic form anywhere. I just created them. You know, I might have stolen, you know, an angle of Herman's head and, you know, drew it onto a body that I just created. But that was that. A little fact you may not know about the limited edition, which you will see on the. Did that just change on me? Oh, the red one. The casket handles on there, the concept behind that was that it was a casket. And I designed it with actual casket handles. And George said, do you know pinball people? And I said, not very well yet. I've only been in this industry for a couple years. He goes, these people will try and pick up the machine by the handles. And they will crack the cabinet. We cannot put real handles on the cabinet. So if you guys quit drinking beer and horsing around, we might be able to do some cool stuff. I'm just saying. So I had to draw casket handles and put them on there. But, you know, cool anyway. That was my latest job. What do we have next? So here's a shot of the playfield without the lower thing. Now there on the far right, you'll see the word the Munsters and a spider web. That's actually hidden underneath the ramp that lifts the ball up over the orbit. So if you're ever cleaning, if you own this game and you're ever cleaning it, you will find that underneath the ramp. I like to hide little fun stuff here and there. And there's a shot of, see now maybe you can see it good in there. I've been criticized at times of just drawing realistic stuff that has no style. And I tried to find something that I could show good enough that would at least try and, you know, show the style in my artwork, because it's not, I would not ever call my artwork photographic. There's a lot of scratchy lines in it. You know, I just render it by scribbling, you know, after I get base colors down, I render it by scribbling with colored pencils until I get all the shading and everything the way I want. And if you really look at it, you can see all of those lines in the artwork. So there is a style to it. I like to outline everything because I grew up being a graphic artist and working more with a technical pen than I did with a paintbrush. So I just adopted that, and I always try to do like a signature color that goes around the character. So that's kind of my style. There is a style there that you will see. So take that, critics. And then we have the Catwoman edition that just came out. The version that you would purchase is the main image there, but I also did an unmasked version that you'll see on the right. That was, they opted not to do that because it didn't look as villainous. But this was a sort of a quick, we need something quick, don't spend a lot of time, we don't have a big budget. So all that was really redone was her head. the artwork still exists in that, family of artwork for those machines. I just drew a new head. I was never really happy with the head, because the original head was drawn off the model kit, and the model kit I thought sucked. The head was not good, but it had to look like the model kit. So for this opportunity, I'm like, I'm gonna go in there and draw a nice head, because I knew she was gonna see it anyway. She was gonna be signing cards for this stuff, and I wanted her to be happy with it. And she sent me a message, she was very happy. So, there's the unmasked version. And then I would convince Stern to also do a back box. Originally, they just wanted to do a translite, and I said, well, let's do a little bit more. And I didn't even really ask them, I just did the artwork. And this artwork was lifted, the figure of her was lifted off the playfield, but redrawn, because on the playfield it's about 2.5 inches tall. I liked the pose, and I never thought that it got its justice in that crappy little thing, so I redrew it much larger. And then, just to give more value, I did Batman and Robin on one side and the other villains on the other, just to mix it up a bit. So that was fun. Ooh, where'd this come from? To give you the full story on these guys here, Superman. Oh, hey, look. See, now you can see some style in there, can't you? See the little scribblies in the face and in the hair? When you get real close to that, you can see that. Anyway, the story behind these two guys, there's a lot of BS about this stuff, and this is the actual truth of what had happened. Joe again came to me and said, we'd like to do a Beetlejuice game. But Joe is just like anybody else that would approach Stern to do a boutique game. He has got to pitch them the idea, they have to agree to do it, and then it gets done. Well, Batman was the case in case one, and then the Beatles, and then this came along. I got used to it being automatic. I got used to this, like, okay, I'll draw it, Stern will see it, Stern will go, yeah, and I'll start working on it. So rather than do some crap sketch or whatever like that, I'm like, I'm just gonna do a full-blown black back glass. And I did, and he took it to Stern, and Stern said no. They didn't want to do it. They didn't have a team that believed in it, and that's fair enough. I talked to George about it, and George is like, if we force someone to do this game, their heart's not going to be in it. So we ask anybody if they're interested in doing it, and if somebody raises their hand, then and we believe in it, that's good. But if they don't, then we don't do it. So they rejected both Beetlejuice and Superman. Well, I didn't exactly have a contract through Joe. I mean, Joe's a very good friend of mine, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm eating this one. I'm not getting paid for it. I certainly wouldn't charge Joe for something that wasn't getting made. So I'm like, well, since I got into pinball, day one when I got into pinball, I noticed there was a separation between the pinball industry and the pinball makers and artists and creators and the pinball fans. And I never understood that. And so I thought I would make it my job to be the bridge between that. I'll go out, talk to the people, tell them stuff that maybe Stern or other people don't want me to talk about. Not secrets like, oh, this is the one that's going to be next. But, just on the process, be a little bit more open with people. And that's what I did. Of course, like anything else, that ended up biting me in the ass. But that's another story. But I thought, hey, let's give everybody a chance to see this, because how often do you get to see artwork for something that didn't get made? At least in a timely fashion. Maybe 20 years down the road, if I make a coffee table book and be like, here's a Beetlejuice game that never got made. Like, oh, I wish I would have saw it back then. You did. I put it out. Caused a lot of controversy. People thought that I was lashing back at Stern. I don't know why, because I posted George's comment with the artwork that said this is why they didn't do it, and I completely understand. But they did, and then people went after Stern. Thank you for that. Because all the rumors I hear, like, is Franchi still working for Stern? A lot of that stuff was founded on some stories going around where Stern was really pissed at me. And I wouldn't say Stern was really pissed off at me. I would say literally Stern, Gary Stern, was not happy with me. He thought that I made the company look stupid, and it was certainly not my intention. And I'm not saying that it didn't. If people came to him and said, why didn't you make this? I can understand why he felt that way. But again, it wasn't my intention. I was just trying to show you guys something neat, that you ordinarily wouldn't get to see. So we have since mended our ways, and all is happy in Franchi Sternland. I'm currently on sort of a hiatus for another couple months because the job that I was slated to do fell through with the licensing. So just so you know, that's all good. But that's the true story behind this artwork. There's nothing more than just trying to show you guys some neat stuff. This particular one, we did a little bit more because we had to get the family to buy in, the Christopher Reeves family. But you will see a lot of reused art, which would have not been the case when we did it. I only had so much time, so I tried to milk what I could and spread it out. That's why you'll see, him pulling a shirt open on the side of the back box as well as on the back glass on the mock-up there. And then on the side of the cabinet, down at the bottom, and then on the alternate back glass, it's the same flying pose. We're just trying to use what artwork I did have time to do and spread it around just to show them some neat stuff. But that's really it. I think the Catwoman was the last project that I worked on, but these are the last things that really got into. There's, of course, again, the close-up Christopher Reeves noggin. This was the last piece of artwork that I did. Now this, if we could make, is anybody familiar with this movie? One, got two guys, three, four, five. This is a Stephen King movie that came out in 1979. It was a made-for-TV movie, and it scared the crap out of me. There were little kids floating in the window, like vampire kids, and they were scratching on the glass. Like, let me in, oh my God. And they had those white eyes. Like when you're like 12 years old, and you have a bedroom window, it's just not a good combination. I moved my bed to the other side of the room because I used to be right by the window, and I'm like, I'm not being by that. The kid had a model kit in the movie. The kid had a model kit with a little cross from a cemetery on it, and when this floating terror baby came to his window, he snapped it off and he held it up the window. I went and bought a model kit like that so that I would have a cross just in case I needed it. But anyway, that's just something a little girl, sweet little girl I was talking to here over the weekend, wants to be an artist, and so we were talking, spent a lot of time with her, probably about 45 minutes talking to her about artwork, and she asked me something like no one ever asked me before. So what's your favorite piece of art? And to inspire her, I told her, I haven't drawn it yet. It's coming, but I haven't done it yet. But now that she's not around, I'll say, this is my favorite piece of artwork. That's actually, there's a little bit of trivia for you. That's who I named my dog after. That's Barlow the vampire. And I have a little French bulldog at home waiting for me to get back to him named Barlow. I named him that because they have similar ears. Anyway, so there's that. And now it is time for a glorious Q&A. I know you guys have heard a lot of my story before, so I thought I'd give you guys plenty of time to ask me any questions that I may not have answered or that you have a burning desire to ask. Now's the time. Do you want to get up to the microphone? What do you, I'm afraid of this guy's question already. He's just back there laughing.
I got to ask it because I was on the receiving end of it.
That's what she said.
I was just curious if I could get your explanation for your Facebook.
Implosion?
Call it what you will.
You can. Yeah, one thing I didn't make part of this presentation was the artwork that I did for Pintastic, which you guys will see in the hallway out here on a big banner and on the t-shirts and the glasses and all of that. The story behind that was Gabe asked me actually at Texas Pinball Festival last year if I would do this show. And it's always an honor when someone says, hey, we want you to be like our poster artist, And I mean poster artist as in poster person. Obviously I would do the poster as well, but I said absolutely, because I get a free trip out here. But no, it is an honor, and I said sure, and I said, what do I have to do? And he says, well, you have to draw a t-shirt and a poster, and he told me, 1 year we'll have an old guy, and I don't mean because I'm an old guy, but a classic artist, and then we'll have a new artist. And even though I'm 52 years old, I'm still considered a new artist because I've only been in pinball since 2016. So I said, okay. And he showed me some of what the other guys had done. And like last year was Paul Ferris, and he had the luxury of having this huge body of work which I greatly respect. I love the guy. And he had all these characters, like back in the 70s when they didn't do Batman and Superman, they did, you know, Gargoyle from Hell and all this other stuff. So he had all these characters that he had created he could pull into a t-shirt design. I didn't have that. I had Superman and, you know, all this stuff that's licensed that you can't put on a shirt. So I said to Gabe, I'm like, I just have to create something. You know, I have nothing that I've done that you could put on a shirt and not get sued over. So he said, well, all right, go for it. So I thought, all right, well, I like old sci-fi movies, like cheesy old, not good old sci-fi movies like, you know, 2001 or anything, but like, you know, bloodsuckers from space and stuff like that. I like that. You know, like I love like Betty Page, stuff like that. Old pinup art, not, you know, like the old paintings that the guys used to do, and the artwork on the nose of the bomber planes, you know, the women riding rockets and, you know, laughing and whatever. So I thought, you know, well, let's tie all this stuff into one and make a really cool design. And I came across this poster for this movie called The Green Slime, which sounds disgusting, but, and it's like these monsters from outer space. The name didn't make any sense at the time, but anyway, the poster was this octopus-looking kind of creature. It was more humanoid with legs, but then it had octopus tentacles coming out from there. And this, you know, this girl in a foil suit or whatever, and she's got like a ray gun, and it's like, I want to do like my own version of this, because I like, I don't know, the space octopus appealed to me. I'm like, that's just kooky. I want to draw that, do my own version of it. So mine's a little bit more of an octopus. It doesn't have the human legs that are disguised as something else. But and then I wanted the girl to be kind of like a pinup version of a girl. So she had, you know, obviously her outfit is not something you'd wear in space. You know, like a jacket and pants. You'd have like a, you know, a suit on. But the girl in the original poster had a little circle cut in her jacket and in her outfit. She's like a silver foil outfit. So kind of like as a tribute to that, I'm like, well, I'm going to put the little circle cut out in the girl's jacket to match. But that's like the only skin that shows. And then this cool bubble helmet, and she's got a ray gun. And Betty Page, like, anybody here familiar with Betty Page? There'll be a ton of people, right? Fair amount. 80% of the pictures Betty Page took were like this. She always had that look where her lips were pursed and her eyes were bugged. And again, I can't put Betty Page on the shirt because it's a licensed character. So I said, I'm just going to borrow, you know, the girl will look different. We'll give her red hair. But I want to give her that expression because it's just a cute expression. So that's what I did. Sent the sketch to Gabe. I said, what do you think? And he's like, perfect, love it. Start doing the final art. So I'm doing the final art, and the next day Gabe calls me, and he's like all excited about this art. He's like, can I show this sketch just to like get people excited? And I said, sure. Bad idea. He posted the sketch, and it started a poop storm of controversy, and I got called things like sexist butthole, we'll put it nicely. It wasn't the word butt, but got called a lot of ugly stuff, and it's honestly, it's still going on now. I mean, I've talked to people here, you know, I mean, supportive people will come over and said, you know, screw that and all that, but there's a backlash. Like I set out to like piss on the female pinball community, and it was not the case whatsoever. I did something that represented me because that's what my task was. And those are the things that I like. And I don't mean sexism is something I like, but I like old pinup artwork. I like old sci-fi movies. Half the movie posters you see, those will move, you know, some monster carrying a girl, and like there's a girl in the corner going, ah, you know, that's just what it was. But apparently a contingency of the female pinball community thought that I was painting women as weak and non-empowered. You know, it's unfortunate. I'm not going to apologize for it because I didn't set out to hurt anybody's feelings or rub anybody the wrong way. That wasn't my intention. But people are going to take things the way they want, so that's unfortunate. So I said that's bad, but I'm not going to. If I apologize, that's like saying I did something wrong. I don't feel I did. I did what I wanted to do. and you're never gonna please everybody. I mean, I don't go to Pinside anymore when my games get released. You know, that artwork sucks. What a bunch of crap. Blah blah blah. So I know not everyone's gonna be pleased. I certainly didn't be expected to be called a sexist piece of whatever. Bless you. But that's unfortunate. And at that point, I had just decided that it was probably not a good idea. Where's the gentleman that asked a question? At that point, I decided it probably would not be a good idea that I was that person that bridged pinball to the people. Because when you do, I just felt like one of those tin ducks in the shooting gallery. Like, just take your shots. And I thought, why am I doing this? Jeremy Packer, Zombie Yeti, he's over here taking a nap. He doesn't even know what the internet is. He's just doing his art, and he's having a good time, and he's getting his paycheck. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I tried the other way. I tried to be that guy. Hey, look what I'm doing. Check it out. Stern's kind of pissed off, but, hey, what do you think? And just decided I can't do it anymore. So I went to my Facebook page, and I just went to my friends list, and if I went to anyone, I go, that's a pinball person, delete. That's a pinball person, delete. The only people that I left on my page were Stern employees or really good friends of mine that I know aren't, someone that's going to, whatever. People I can trust and I can keep on my friends list. And then there's a few stragglers that I don't think I got to in time, so they're still there, but whatever. But yeah, so unfortunately at this point in time, I decided that I'm not going to do, like the convention circuit anymore. This is my last appearance where I'm going to be sitting and signing things and doing a seminar and all of that. I will be at Texas, and I will take part in the autograph session, which is like an hour-long thing. But me and Ed are really good friends, so I agreed to come back out for that. But it happens sometimes. A few people spoil it for everyone, but pinball's supposed to be fun. The way I look at it is like, I learned a new phrase this weekend, and that's the SJW. Do you guys know what that is? Social justice warrior. Well, what is it? PJW, pinball justice warriors. They're out there and they're preying on people and they're ruining it for everyone else. So, Queen of Swag, Mrs. Pin, if you want to make a shirt, no pinball justice warriors, and on the back, keep pinball fun. That's what I hope for someday. Right now, that's not the case, and like I said, some people are ruining it for everyone. And I had to bow out, and that's unfortunate. But I told Gabe, I said, there's no way I'm going to bail out on this. Even though my feelings have changed, I made an obligation to do this, and here I am. So, and I don't regret it. I'm not up here because I feel I have to be. I'm up here because I said it would be. So does that answer your question? Excellent. Look at that. Anybody else?
Other questions? Come on up. Oh, our own in-house artist, art director, Joel de Guzman.
All right, let's give him a hand. Fine job, sir.
Hey, Chris. So I want to ask you something that I actually also wanted to ask Jeremy Packer when he was here, but I never got to. So one of the big things that I've noticed as I've gotten into the pinball hobby is the whole technological change in lighting. And as an artist, this is one of those things that I always see. You see people who put LED lights in like a Paul Ferris game, but they're all purple. So what I want to know is when you're creating artwork for these newer games, which all have these like new RGB color changing lights, floodlights and pin stadiums, whatever, this crazy stuff. Do you have to take that into consideration, or do you like make something and then see the lighting they put on it and be like, what did they do? Can we change that?
That's excellent question.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, there's two answers to that. Number one, I get a rough idea when I get the schematic for the playfield. If you guys saw what some people like, I don't know if you guys know who Canada is, but there are some people out there that will say, there's plenty of artists out there. Why aren't there more artists doing pinball? If you can draw, you can do pinball. No. You have to understand pinball. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just draw pictures and just slap them. If you look at it, there's a lot of thought going into that. So sorry, Canada, but you can't just make a pinball machine if you can draw. So we get a schematic that has like, we're all, it's the black and white, and I mean literally black and white, like black lines, a white background, no grayscale, no pretty stuff. Here's where all the inserts are going. They plan all that out. To some extent, I can change it. I changed the inserts drastically on the Beatles because I wanted a big image of the Beatles, and they had inserts all over the place. I'm like, can we just compact this? Like, let's make this like a rainbow, and then we got a nice spot for the Beatles in there. So they will give me a rough idea of what they're planning on doing with the lighting. It's not always dead on, and I take that into consideration. But that's very mild compared to what they plan. Mm-hmm. They give me very little information on lighting. The second half of that question is, I do my art and let them worry about it. So, right. Here's the art. They'll put the lights in. They'll print out the play field. They'll test the game. If anything looks funky, they'll change the lights. Yeah. Because that's what you want. I mean, the art's got to look good when the machine's off. Right. I can't work around that and then have it work great for the lights, and then when you shut it off or when that feature's not going, it looks like crap. Yeah. It's got to look good all the time. So I let them work around my work. It makes it easier for me.
That makes sense. 'Cause I'd say generally when you see these machines stock out of the box, before people start changing out the lights or whatever, they look good. Like the art, it's lit well and it's displayed well. So
yeah, it's all taken into consideration there. I'm getting more comfortable with the guys at Stern, and they are with me as I go. So I've made suggestions where like, let's not make this like a clear RGB. Let's make this an opaque yellow. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of fun doing real retro kind of things with the Beatles, where we had like a solid white, big solid white insert, and we put the Beatles logo on it, and we used that for the kick drum of Ringo's drum set. Yeah. I wanted all the inserts on the Beatles to be old school, and I didn't get my way, but because I really wanted that game to look like you just pulled it out of that big warehouse where the Temple of Doom, not the Temple of Doom, what do they call that thing?
The Ark of the
Raiders
Covenant?
of the Ark, the Lost Ark of the Covenant. Like they pulled it out of that warehouse and went, check it out, But no, they wanted to put the modern technology in there too. But so it's taken into consideration on both ends. Is the true answer? I'll use the information I have, do the art, and then they work around the art.
Cool. Thank you.
And following up on that, when you are back on another pinball assignment, do you think you might get more into their brainstorming sessions and try to influence earlier on in the process?
I only do it when I think it's necessary. I don't make it a point to try and put my stamp on the game. That's a great idea, Dwight, but screw you. I've got better ideas. I don't want to do that. I don't want to step on anybody else's work. My interest is how everything's going to get married together, and I merely suggest changes. It's not my call. I can't say this insert needs to be like this. I can just say, can we do this?
I think mentioning Dwight, that's a perfect opening for somebody, and I think nowadays commonly the programmer says when we're doing this mode, all the relevant targets are going to have their RGB LEDs go blue, this shade of blue, because that's the mode you're in. Would you want to have some say in that because it's art?
No, I don't see the lighting as art. I see the art that I put over top of the insert as art. But a lot of times, especially working with Dwight modeled a lot of the insert colors and things like that off of my art.
Oh, good.
After he saw it, so because they get early peeks at that stuff. I don't finish the whole playfield then send it in. I'll finish the bottom. I always start at the drain and work my way up. And so I'll send them that, and they work a lot. Like whenever in the Munsters, whenever you hit the Lily bank of targets, there's this old organ sound, and it only makes that because I decided that the plastic on top of that was going to be the keyboard from the old dusty organ. So he's like, oh, well, we'll just put the sound in, for the organ. So we kind of work hand in hand. There's no real plan, but I do come in at the beginning. Like for the Munsters, we sat down and they had some very basic stuff done with the playfield and all that. And I had a marker and Dwight had a marker, and he's just telling me things and I'm writing things down. And I have all these things at home that's folded up, big giant pieces of, full-size pieces of paper with all of our scribbling on what's going to be what. But that's pretty much Dwight's job or the coder's job is to really call all that out. That's not an artist thing. Like, you know, he wanted all the inserts to be purple for the, you know, the little grandpa vampire teeth, and that's all at his call. Like I said, I can make suggestions if I think design-wise something would work better or whatever, but it's up to him to say yes or no. And that's it. And I honestly try to stay away from that because it's someone else's job.
You gonna ask a question?
What?
You here to ask a question?
I am, is that okay?
Okay, it's, well,
I
sound
ju-
and art meet.
I just sent you a message on Slack. It turns out we're in the same division at Zynga.
Oh, you work at Zynga.
Yeah,
What's your name?
Chris Granner. I'm the audio director.
Oh, yeah.
Casino Match. We never actually, I just thought I'd introduce
Zynga,
myself.
Zynga Brothers powers activate.
Great story about Dwight and playfield art and connecting it with sound. We've gone back, you know, decades, Dwight and I.
Yeah.
In addition to all the political stuff that we love to talk about and love to disagree about, but he's got some great notes about that. But actually, that was not what I was going to ask you about. I just wondered if so we both work at a division of Zynga that uses an economic model that's like free to play, right? So we get people to come in and play for a couple of hours, and when you lose, and you will, you can either wait till tomorrow where we give you some more coins, or you can buy. And we are still in existence because lots of people, a frighteningly large number of people are prepared to do that, right? So that's what we do. But I just wondered whether or not that was something that you'd ever thought of in terms of pinball. Whether or not we're in a place where the work that we do, you know, I'm a sound guy, you're an artist, and so we don't necessarily get much into product management and stuff like that, the economy of it all. I wonder if we should. Should we know about that? Should we be thinking about, you know, Joe Balser was talking about ball time and stuff like that in the last session. Should we be thinking about ways to get people 3 moves before the end when they run out of power or run out of money or something like that, and we want to, can we get them to spend another buck to?
That sounds evil.
Does it? Is that evil? Is that just like, it's like, I don't know.
mean,
I don't know.
it's
It's just
business.
It's business, and you
It's
know, we're in
business.
business because of it. You know, we're both
Yeah.
happily employed or whatever. You know, but
Well, I'll tell you what I think the difference is between the two of those is that the Zynga games, Chris and I both work for a company called Zynga, which is social media games, Mafia Wars, Gardenscape, Wonka World of Candy, is that what it's called?
Wonka's World of Candy. Yeah. Did you
Harry
just switch
Potter.
teams? Are you?
Yeah, I'm
your
on
team?
Game of Thrones right now.
You are okay. Cool.
That's what we do, but I think the difference, why that wouldn't work between the two companies, this is not even my field, but just from the gut, those games that you play on your phone, they're like a slot machine. They're like, it's something that's predetermined, more or less. Pinball, you're on your own. You're whacking the ball around, it's gonna go where you want it to go. You have more say in what happens than a social game. So I don't think there's really any way that you can control the outcome of that to where you want to snub somebody, like they're on their 3rd ball and they're just about to get to the wizard mode and you're like, yeah, sorry. You can come back tomorrow and
couldn't
play.
ta- yeah, you
or
couldn't
you can give
take
us
that,
another
yeah.
$1 and we'll give you another ball.
Let's call it add a ball, right? We used to do add a
Yeah.
ball, right?
Would you guys do that? Like, 50 cents to add a ball onto a game? Would you do that? Yeah, it's kind of cheating, right?
That's right. Yeah, it goes way back. Goes back 20, 25 years or something like that. It was a thing. Buy a button.
Oh, they used to do that?
Yeah. It was when coin-op was coin-op. When coin-op was king. When ball time mattered, and all these games were made for made for the street and not for basements and stuff like that. Very different world now for sure. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's really nice to meet
that's
you. Chris.
you too. That's the best answer I have for you. And with ideas like that, don't get your butt beat when you walk out in the hall. People will be like,
Chris
well, I
will
can't
be
finish
on
my
at
game.
3 o'clock in this same room.
All right, anybody else?
So, riding on the last gentleman's commentary, an example of that would be the Flintstones, where at the end of your game, you could put in another 50 cents and get an additional ball.
That does happen.
That's
Yes.
the buy-in that we were talking about.
I didn't play the Flintstones because the one I went to had that alternate back glass.
I understand.
And I felt gross because I was with my daughter.
I understand. So at the same time, I have a twofold question. Firstly, the Salem's Lot artwork. Is there a purpose or an idea behind the usage for that anywhere? And if you had a dream theme for pinball that you could design anything you wanted to, what would that be?
First answer is the Salem's Lot was something I've always wanted to do. And since I've got like 3 months free on Stern, I had the time to do it. So it was just a labor of love sort of a thing. There's no use for it other than when I posted it, I got contacted by a guy who's writing a book called The Pulp Art of Horror, and it's going to be featured in that book now. Along with my Creature from the Black Lagoon art, which was also just a labor of love. And then the second question was what?
What
Sorry.
would you pick
Oh,
as a
dream
theme?
theme. Well, honestly, I mean, I've already done it. Batman. I collect TV show Batman. That's how I got that job, because I love Batman. I did the artwork. Stern saw it. They called me up. So really, you know, my dream theme was already done, but that's not really fair. So if I reassessed and what I like to do, there are two that I would love to do that probably most of the people in this room would hate. One would be Betty Page, and two would be the monster cereals, Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and Boo Berry. You know, hey, it's a cereal, so you can do anything you want, and General Mills doesn't go, you can't do that, it's Frankenberry. Yes, I can, because all he does is eat cereal, you know. But you could build this whole monster world with little tubes that the balls could go around, and, you know, just, I don't know. If you put your quarter in and don't get a game, you hit the coin return, you get a little handful of cereal, you know, whatever. I
So
don't
it's
know.
part vending machine.
I just like those, yeah, it's retro, it's fun, you know, kids, you know, it's something kids would love. And the beauty of that property actually is that it's cross-generational. I know it, you know it, your grandkids know it, everybody knows it, because every Halloween it comes out. So it's not like something like Betty Page, where, like, you know, all the 50-something-year-old dudes would be like, I know what Betty Page is. You know, so I don't know. I think it'd be a good. I think it'd be fun. And I'd love to do Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it's already been done. But that one's been tainted, so maybe we could redo it.
Yeah, it's a big selling title, and some other big selling titles like Pirates of the Caribbean have been done more than once.
Yeah, I'd like to do. Yeah, my daughter just reminded me. Dexter's Laboratory too. The cartoon with the guy with the little kid with the German accent. No, Dee Dee, no. Anyway, anybody else? No? All right, prize time. Prize time. I'm not just going to hand out prizes. You guys got to work for it. So what I did was, this is how we're going to handle this. There's going to be a question or a visual or something up on the screen. If it requires anything from me, additional speaking, I will give it to you, but you must raise your hand to answer the question. My daughter and I are going to do the best to try and see if we can get the person who raised their hand first, and we'll go from there. And then we have a fabulous prize pack awaiting you up here if you are correct. First one is, who is that? Did you catch it?
It's number 1 Frenchie, Barlow.
That is my dog Barlow. Now the funny thing is the picture, the big picture in the middle, he goes to puppy camp 3 times a week. And they sent me that picture, and they said, we love your dog to pieces. He's insane. And I said, why? And they go, this is how he goes down the slide. He literally gets at the top of the slide, lays on his side, and goes down. That's my boy. Okay. What size shirt do you wear?
Large.
Large. I don't have my glasses on. Is it this one here? All right. Well, wait. Don't just, there's other stuff. Oh, there, yeah, we got the prize runner. So there's that, and then there is one of a fancy tin sign for your game room. All right, that's the first one. So yeah, you get a t-shirt, a cool pin, stickers, and a sign. Ready? Okay, the question, oh. You're not cheating if you know. Well, if you know, you know. Well, she raised her hand, but you answered, so did she just void her? Okay, yes, on the plastic, this is a plastic for the Beatles. And that little girl burrowed out in the middle is my daughter. Do the pose. What size shirt do you wear?
How long did you have to sit like that? About 10 seconds, we went into our bathroom at his house, and he went, stand like this. No one's more excited. Move your hair. Why do you have so much hair? God damn it. Cut your hair. And then every time he drew it, he reminded me of how much hair I had because it was a pain in the ass to draw. And I said, haha.
Yeah, I have the photo on my phone somewhere still. She's up against the bathroom door because the bathroom has this like lighting going all the way across, and I wanted even lighting, and she's just like, it's the dumbest looking picture. I said, look like you're excited to see the Beatles, and she's like, I don't like the Beatles. Just pretend it's who do you like? I don't know, I probably said somebody other. Brad Pitt. What size shirt do you wear? All right, well, who wants the shirt of the two of you, since you're one? It's Mrs. and Dr. Pin over here, by the way, the podcast wonders. Large? Okay. There's gotta be. Oh, was that the one that we already?
We have small, medium, extra large, extra, extra large. Medium, medium.
Where's the pens? Are they in here? They're in here. All right, and the last one. Everybody ready? Turn around, you gotta see the hands. I'm gonna watch too. I was watching the screen before, but, all right, here we go. Oh, that's a fake question. Did anybody see this video on Facebook? It's cropped. There's two girls, and they're rapping in a car. And this girl, her expression does not change. Her eyes were closed like that. She was so stoned that she couldn't open her eyes. She's like, oh. And I just freezed it on that, and I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, look at her. Anyway. Here we go, ready? More cowbell, that's correct. I got a fever and the only prescription is more cowbell. No, but that's the guy from Saturday Night Live, that's Will Ferrell. All right. Did I? I didn't misspell anything. Shh. All right. That's it, guys. Thanks for your time.